Picture a single crisp $10 bill turning into a stack over time because the earnings you make keep earning more, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which numbers to plug in to chart your path from small, steady inputs to outsized outcomes you can actually replicate. The promise here isn't magic, but math you can use, grounded in the compounding effect that pays interest on interest when you keep gains invested and let time multiply the result. This approach pairs realistic growth assumptions with a simple routine for reinvesting and contributing on a schedule, using accounts most U.S. investors already have or can open. By the end, you'll be able to copy a baseline plan, test it with a reputable calculator, and adjust the inputs to fit your own horizon and contribution capacity. Think back to the snowball metaphor. Every flake that sticks makes the next roll more powerful because the base is larger, and compounding works the same way when dividends, interest, and gains are left to feed the principal. The key change today is that the metaphor becomes measurable, and you'll see how deposit size, growth rate, compounding frequency, and time each push on the curve in different ways. The idea's simple but profound. Reinvestment turns linear steps into a bend that accelerates, which is why small now can beat big later if it starts the clock sooner. Here's the core formula that models a single lump sum growing with compounding. A equals P times open parenthesis, 1 plus R over N close parenthesis, all raised to NT, where A is the future amount, P the starting principal, R the annual nominal rate, N the number of compounding periods per year, and T the number of years invested. Increasing N means the earnings are folded back in more often, which raises the effective annual rate even when the nominal rate R is unchanged. When you're adding money on a regular schedule, you use the future value of a series because each contribution has a different runway to grow, and the cadence of those deposits matters. The math codifies what the snowball suggests. The more times earnings get added back to the base, the stronger the compounding effect. To get comparisons right within a year, distinguish nominal rates like APR from effective annual rates like APY or EAR, which reflect how often compounding happens inside the year. The link between nominal and effective rates is EAR, equals open parenthesis 1 plus R over N close parenthesis, raised to N minus 1, which lets you translate a quoted nominal rate and frequency into a true annualized figure you can compare across products. In practice, loans and credit cards often highlight APR, while savings accounts and some investments emphasize APY because it captures the benefit of intra-year compounding. A useful mental shortcut to build intuition is the rule of 72, which estimates doubling time as 72. Divide by rate when rate is a percent per year. Treat it as a back-of-the-envelope way to sense how small rate differences compound into big outcome differences over time. For actual planning, validate assumptions and outputs with a reliable calculator to see how your numbers play out over a realistic timeline. Start with a baseline that almost anyone can copy. Contribute $10 on a fixed monthly cadence, reinvest all earnings automatically, and let the model show how time scales small habits into meaningful sums. When you add recurring deposits, the future value of a series accounts for the fact that a dollar contributed earlier compounds for more periods than a dollar added later. This is where patience becomes visible, because early contributions carry more of the long-term outcome than late ones, even if late deposits are larger. Walk through a conservative path at an effective annual rate around 4%, which is helpful to set expectations for lower volatility assumptions over long horizons. Look at 10, 20, and 30-year marks to see how the slope changes as reinvested earnings take over a larger share of annual growth. The point isn't to promise a specific future, but to show how modest, steady inputs start to bend the line as the years accumulate, Now try 6% as a balanced growth scenario to illustrate how a modest rate increase compresses doubling time and widens the gap over decades. You'll notice that contribution regularity plus reinvestment do most of the work, and the rate mainly controls how quickly the bend steepens. This is why automation that protects cadence through market noise becomes a performance feature, not just a convenience. At 8%, you're modeling an equity-tilted long-horizon path where expected returns are higher, but variability is also greater, which is why diversification matters. If you hold dividend-paying funds or stocks, reinvesting distributions is essential to realize the total return premise in your projection. The spread between 6 and 8% over multi-decade horizons can be enormous, but so can the volatility, which reinforces focusing on behavior and time rather than perfect rate guesses. Reinvestment cadence also plays a quiet role because monthly reinvestment puts cash back to work sooner than quarterly or annual reinvestment at the same nominal rate. More frequent reinvestment ticks up the effective return because each distribution gets a head start on compounding during the year. Setting dividends and interest to auto-reinvest is the simplest way to lock this in and avoid idle cash drag. The easiest implementation tool is a dividend reinvestment plan, often called a DRIP, which automatically buys more shares with each payout, commonly down to fractional shares. Most retirement plans and brokerages let you toggle reinvest dividends and interest, preserving the momentum without manual orders. Turning those distributions into cash you spend now effectively shrinks your base and slows the curve, which fights the snowball effect you're trying to harness. Fees and frictions compound too, which is why a seemingly small, persistent expense ratio can meaningfully dent long-run results by shrinking the base each period. Favoring low-cost, diversified vehicles keeps more of every year's gain compounding for you instead of leaking away. Taxes also matter, and using tax-advantaged wrappers can defer or eliminate some taxes, so more of your return remains invested across periods. Inflation is the quiet headwind that turns nominal gains into real-life purchasing power, so plan with an eye on real returns whenever possible. Higher nominal returns aren't necessarily better if they come in a regime with higher inflation, because your target is what your money buys, not just the number on a statement. Revisit assumptions when inflation trends shift so your projected path stays anchored to the reality of your goals. Tie this math to the accounts you may already use in the United States, so your plan benefits from policy rather than fights it. Traditional 401 HSAs and IRAs allow tax-deferred growth, keeping more money invested each year until withdrawal, which can magnify compounding. Roth 401(k)s and Roth IRAs flip the timing of tax so that qualified withdrawals come out tax-free after contributing post-tax dollars, which can be powerful over long horizons. Health savings accounts offer a rare triple tax advantage for qualified medical expenses, making them uniquely efficient when used as part of a long-term plan. For education goals, 529 plans offer tax-advantaged growth when used for qualified expenses, improving the compounding picture for school costs. If you have access to an employer match in a 401(k), capture it, because a match functions like an immediate return on your contribution that compounds for years. The math advantage of free money early in the life of your snowball is hard to overstate, especially when paired with reinvestment and time. Understand any vesting schedule so you know how long you need to stay to fully benefit from matched dollars in your compounding base. While you build your positive compounding plan, neutralize negative compounding from high-interest debt because it can outpace investment gains in a hurry. Credit card interest is commonly computed using a daily periodic rate applied to the average daily balance, which means carrying a balance adds cost frequently and relentlessly. Accelerating payoff on high APR balances often delivers a risk-free return equal to the avoided interest, which can beat many investment alternatives. Keep at least a minimal investment cadence running so your compounding clock stays on. but bias extra cash toward aggressive debt reduction until the anti-snowball is gone. Run stress tests because real life includes missed months, shaky discipline, and interruptions, and the model should reflect that. Skipping contributions early is more expensive than skipping them later, because it removes dollars with the longest runway from your plan. Sporadic large lump sums rarely match the outcome of a steady cadence unless timing is improbably perfect, which is why automation matters more than enthusiasm. Turning off reinvestment during downturns can blunt the recovery's compounding benefit, so keep distributions reinvested unless your plan deliberately says otherwise. Now assemble a plan you can copy and personalize in minutes. Pick a monthly contribution you can sustain through market noise and life's randomness, even if it's as small as $10 to start. Choose a conservative, a base, and an optimistic effective annual rate to model a range of outcomes, and use a reputable compound interest calculator for each scenario. Set compounding frequency to monthly for intuition, and toggle dividends and interest to auto-reinvest in every relevant account. Map contributions to the accounts where each dollar has the most tax advantage given your situation, prioritizing employer-matched dollars first when available. Add a quarterly reminder to nudge contributions upward, review fees, and verify your emergency buffer so short-term shocks don't force plan changes. All of this is simply the snowball made explicit. Every deposit adds mass, every reinvested distribution makes it stickier, and time provides the slope for the roll. Growth rate is the accelerator, but cadence and reinvestment are the engine you control day in and day out. The strength of your plan isn't prediction, it's the consistency that makes outcomes repeatable even when markets wobble. To close, here's the next step so you can keep the momentum going. The next video turns your numbers into a stable contribution schedule that smooths behavior, reduces timing risk, and keeps the compounding on track through market noise. Expect a clear walkthrough on aligning payday cadence, account types, and auto-invest settings so your plan runs without constant decision fatigue. Subscribe and bring your monthly dollar amount and dates, and be ready to lock in a schedule you can live with for years.